every time it changes, I find something new I want to say to myself every day, repeatedly.
Get out of bed. Get out of bed. Get out of bed.
Yeah, they might work.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to episode 426 of the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs, and joining me is Donna Grindle of Carden. What's up?
Hey, this and that, and a little bit more of the other.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. So as we record this, we should be slapping the middle of October.
Yes.
Well, excuse me, as you're listening to it, we should be slapping the middle of October.
Oh, wait, you confused me on that one, boo. I got nothing.
As we're recording, we're slapping the middle of September. But anyway, October is very special to our hearts because it is the National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So it's the 1 month out of the year that we get to scream and shout about cybersecurity, and nobody looks at us crazy.
No, I don't think that happens. I
No,
think
it
they
doesn't.
still do.
They still do. But we're going to talk today about some of the cybersecurity awareness things from their campaign they have in this year. So hopefully you're already in the middle of doing this. But we're going to talk about the 4 action steps that they have in front of us to do. And the interesting part about this is for some of you, you're going to be like, you know what, this is nothing new. And my response is exactly right. It's just like if you're in a fight, let's say boxing match, MMA match, or whatever, oftentimes you hear somebody say, get back to the fundamentals. The fundamentals is what wins a fight. You just need to have an awesome jab, and that's all it takes. And that's kind of where we're at. We're looking at things, and oftentimes people say, you know, what's the next big fancy thing? And of course, it has to end in AI, or we don't think it's big and fancy. But what's the newest thing we need to be doing? And really, it just goes back to saying, hey, we've got to get the fundamentals right. We've got to get the basics right. And if we can get that right, then we can move on to the bigger and better, flashier things. But for the most part, just getting the basics right would do a lot to get you where you need to be.
I think you are correct, David. And maybe that's why they decided to do what you thought.
They should.
It was all David's plan of how this should be done.
After little to no deliberation with me, they decided to go.
Let's do it David's way. We're sure we know what it is.
Yeah, let's ask David GPT, see what he says. So that's where we're at. And we'll cover these today and talk about these a little more in depth. And before we get to that, though, we do want to say thank you to those folks who are donors, who share out the podcast, who leave us reviews. We appreciate it. If you haven't left a review, please do so. We appreciate those more than you know.
We do. We honestly do. We get excited when we find them.
It's like an Easter egg.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's jump into our first thing, which is the HIPAA briefs. So go jump into your briefs. Let's talk about.
Got your briefs on.
Yeah. So security awareness training and HIPAA.
What do we think about that?
Well, one of the things that I hear sometimes is, security awareness training is a great idea, but, where do I get content? And I don't have time to build content. I don't have time to do the training.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, nowadays, that's not an excuse anymore. There's so much free content out there from places like 405D and the National Cybersecurity Awareness Month campaign stuff, and just tons and tons of other resources that we can't spend the time naming, that if your excuse is we don't have the content, or we have to hire somebody to create the content, or anything around that.
Yeah, we can't afford the training.
Exactly. Yeah, we can't afford to buy it. Whatever. None of that. None of that. All that's been completely eliminated from your repertoire of excuses.
Yeah, and we always bring it up and try to cover it. That's why we did a discussion on the 405D knowledge on demand, the HICCOD. And, there's plenty of things that we contribute to it, and we want to make sure all the other contributors are recognized for it. So we often are sharing that information out, putting it on our social media. It's all there. And for those who are like, well, we do our HIPAA training once a year. Well, here's the thing. HIPAA requires two different kinds of training. One is training on HIPAA and what it requires, and the other is a regular security awareness training. So if you teach people once a month, and you get a message out once a month, you're going to get a different result than, say, once a year on the passwords and those kind of things. So if you are looking for stuff, it's there. There's plenty of it. And we're even going to mention some of it here.
Yeah. And as basic as some of this stuff is, the statistics show exactly what I come in contact with all the time, which is people still aren't doing it.
Yep, we know it.
In mass, people still aren't doing the simple stuff.
Yeah, and there's so many people that coming into healthcare from other industries, and they're just shocked at the amount of legacy stuff and the big picture of things we've been trying to tell you.
Yeah.
So we're doing our part to make it better. We're asking you to do yours.
That's right.
Okay.
All right. So our 405D tip of the week.
Tip of the week.
Tip of the week.
If you haven't gotten the free campaign information from 405d.hhs.gov for Cybersecurity Awareness Month, you should go to 405d.hhs.gov because there's posters being distributed that are 405D healthcare specific type of posters about the 4 actions, which also, interestingly enough, David, the 4 things they want us to encourage people to do happen to also be involved in the HICCUP recommended cybersecurity practices. Who would have thought?
How about that?
I'll be. LIB.
MR ducks.
And something just told me you know where to go with that.
That's true. All right. So let's dive into what these 4 action steps are, because some of you, even though you'll say it's simple, you aren't doing it.
Oh, yeah, that's easy. Yeah, and we were just having a discussion with one of our clients this week or last week and pointed out, hey, it's really great when you use some of this stuff, but adoption is a challenge. Yes.
Can be.
Know. So,
can be.
Oh, LB. So, David, did you know this is the 20th annual Cybersecurity Awareness Month?
What?
I know.
See, some people thought cybersecurity was something that just started happening in the past 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Because they finally started listening
to the podcast.
Hey, Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I don't know that I was paying attention those first few years, but it's been around trying to get people to be aware of it all that time. So they're trying to have a big production about it this year. And it's a lot different I'm sorry, let me rephrase. It is different in many ways for those of us who use all the tools to promote prior to October. They aren't doing that this year. They're changing a lot of things. They're changing it up. And CIS has gotten more involved, and I'm not sure what's happening. So that's why we're talking about it in the middle of things.
Yeah. We'll bring all of it to you after it's over because that's when we'll have it.
Those of us who do things in advance can't wait till the last minute.
That's right.
So they really, I think, wanted us to prepare to be doing this stuff, even though, you're not sure what's available. So what are the 2023 key messages that they want us to get across, which, these are not new messages to our world.
No, not at all. So key message number one, and if everybody would just do this, but key message number one, enable multi-factor authentication, MFA.
Yes.
And I know if you're in technology, you're like, but that's not foolproof. You can still get past MFA. Yes, that is absolutely true. However, it's still one of your best protections.
Well, and you have to be targeting to get past the MFA, and there has to be vulnerabilities, which we've seen some in some things like, the Microsoft platform and others. So we know they exist, but you're right. I mean, if you do this, you're gonna be one step closer to making them say, okay, I give up.
Yeah. It's no different than when you put an alarm system on your house and you put 3 or 4 different locks on the door. If somebody really wants in, they're going to get in, but chances are they're going to try it a few times and they're like, no, we'll just move over to the next guy who's not doing this.
Right.
And just just make it hard for them and they'll move on. And it's the same thing in the digital world.
And it for us, we've been doing this for a long time, and every time you have to get your phone to do your authenticator code, you just have to say security's not convenient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do it every day, multiple times a day.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but I have things that log out after, inactivity.
Yeah.
A time of inactivity, or if I close it down or whatever. So yeah, I have to log back into things all day long.
And you're hitting the codes and all. Yeah.
Yeah. But the cost of something happening is a whole lot worse than the cost of me taking 15, 20 seconds to look that code up twice a day.
Oh yeah. And you just get used to it, just like anything else. Like, where's my car keys? You get used to it, keeping up with your stuff.
Yeah.
So, enable multi-factor number 2, David.
Number 2, use strong passwords and a password manager, because they go hand in hand.
Yeah, they do.
You are not likely to use a strong password across all accounts everywhere unless you have a password manager, because it's impossible. I don't know of any way you can do it. Of course, you could certainly do the spreadsheet.
Which leaves us into a whole nother discussion. The thing that I think so many people don't understand is, if you use a password manager and, make sure it's, we're not saying save it in the browser. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about the new Google password manager. I haven't looked into it because I've been a little busy. But if you use one and you have a seriously strong password for that, and put in multi-factor authentication, and you know that it's getting encrypted, and you please make sure your phone's encrypted and password protected if you're going to put this on here. But if you do that, you're head and shoulders above the rest. And yes, the password managers and the MFA, things can go wrong. But, if you secure it properly in the first place, you expect things to go wrong and you're prepared for things to go wrong.
Yeah. Maybe you need to add to your cybersecurity rules. Maybe you need to add one that cybersecurity is not 100%.
Yeah, maybe. But I have recently been sharing with people who are like, I can't remember these complex passwords and I'm not able to do that. And no. So I have come up with something that most people are like, huh. Where before they were like, yeah, no matter what I came up with. But this suggestion, David, creates a, I guess I could do that response. So I'm sticking with this one. And this is, we all try to remember things and plan things and have goals and habits we want to create or change.
Mhm.
And, that requires us thinking things to ourselves. So if there's something that we should all pick one of those and create your password so you're saying that thing to yourself every day. So you certainly don't want to say something negative every day. But I use for an example, I've been doing this for a while. And so last year, when I was thinking, oh, my birthday's coming around, I need to come up with a big plan for the big birthday, I set my password for what can I do for 60 in 23 ? And put like a couple of capitals in there. And, sometimes it's it's an exclamation point trying to reiterate something to myself. But if you create something that is that personal, then you don't forget it. It helps you with your goal of remembering something, changing something, or at least makes you think about it, makes you aware of it. So there's things I am constantly working on, don't do this or don't do that, or, try to get better at this, or don't forget, this is more important. Put those kind of things into a password so you're saying those things to yourself all the time.
Yep. That's very good. I'm already doing that. I didn't know that was something you thought about.
Oh, no, I realized, I've been doing it for a long time, and I realized it's a system that works, and people don't know about it.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I do that as well. I can't say what my current ones are, but
I can't either.
If I told you, you'd be like, oh, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody else would figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's just really something like that. Other times it's, okay, I need to be better at something. But every time it changes, I find something new I want to say to myself every day, repeatedly.
Get out of bed. Get out of bed. Get out of bed.
Yeah, that might work. So if you do that, put on MFA or 2FA, we used to say. Ooh, I'm a poet and don't know it. Anyway, if you do that and use a good password manager, you're head and shoulders above other people. And really, if we all did all four of these things on a regular basis, things would, I believe that we would immediately have better security. Maybe that's why they picked them.
Well, let's get into some that are a little more difficult. Easy to say, not as easy to do. So the number 3 here is update your software. So again, that sounds simple. Not so much. I mean, if I ask most people, well, what software do you have on your computer? I usually get things like, oh, I just have Microsoft Word or Outlook or whatever, and maybe a couple other programs. They'll give me 3 to 5 programs. Yeah. And then you go and look, and it's like, you got 40 different applications on here. Like, what? And that's not including the things that are plugins and add-ons and all these other things that are technically pieces of software that are bolted onto other pieces of software.
Yeah, that makes it a whole lot more interesting when you start to get to understand what software really is.
Yeah. So updating your software, that's not so easy. And if you've got somebody who's patching your software for you, i.e. IT company, MSP, I would say ask for a software inventory. You want to know what those assets are, and then sit down and say, okay, which of these assets are you updating for us? You might be surprised at the answer.
Yeah, because, I mean, things like your core business applications, they may not be doing.
And some of them you may not want them to do, but you need to be figuring that out. And also, like I said, start asking questions about what about the browser plugins? What about the other add-ons that are in other pieces of software?
Yeah,
All
who's
those
looking
are-
at that?
Yeah. Who's doing it? If nobody's doing it, okay, you learn something. But
Yep.
again, updating your software, easy to say, not
Yeah.
so much to do.
Patch management is what that is. Now, we use both terms. Patch
Yes, we do.
management, vulnerability management falls in there sometimes, but the big issue is keep your stuff up to date. And everybody's like, well, but they talk about it on the phone, especially on the computers that make phone calls.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to do that because blah, 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 blah. Do you know how many updates they're behind? And that doesn't count the security updates.
Mm-hmm.
And I always get a little bit of a headache on the right side. I don't know why, but that's where the pain for it's probably, blood pressure for people. But yeah, please update all software.
Yeah. And this is not a once a year thing either, by the way.
No. You should check them out once a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do it every week on mine. And there's something every week. There's not a week goes by that something doesn't have.
Oh yeah. I have
Patches
all these
and updates.
monitors and scans and, you use a different tool than I do. And it's always nagging me to take care of something or evaluate something or, hey, we loaded this automatically just in case. I mean, this is a constant battle.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a regular event. So that's number 3.
Number 4, again, not so sure about this one. So this one is recognize and report phishing attacks.
Yes.
So can you and your staff actually recognize phishing attacks? And if they can, who do they report them to?
Well,
And then
and
what do you
reporting
do?
is the other important piece because if you're under attack, it's usually everybody in the office.
Yeah.
They've gotten a list. They've got a lot of people, and they may be staggering them out so you don't get the gopher thing where pop up in the old cubicle days.
Mhm. No, here's what they do nowadays. Nowadays, they click on the thing in the phishing attack. They click on it, and then it looks like it doesn't do anything. So they send it to their friend in the next cubicle and say, can you click on this? Because it won't open for me. It's like, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and phishing is very sophisticated now. It's social engineered. You're getting stuff that looks like it's coming from people because they've gotten the two of you on the same list somewhere.
Yeah. And with AI, the way it is now, I mean, no more are the days where it's like, oh, this terrible spelling. That's how I know it's phishing. Or, you name it. All the things that we used to point to a couple of years ago as indicators, most of those have went out the window. So you've got to be really, really paying attention.
Yeah, I really now focus on if it creates an emotional response of, I got to handle this right away. I got to do this immediately. I need to share this. This makes me mad. Anything, an emotional response, halt. Make sure.
Yep.
Doesn't matter who it's from.
I got an email over the weekend from a client, and I swear, reading that thing, if I were to let you read it, you'd be like, nah, this is phishing. And I'm reading it, and I'm like, this is phishing. This is not this guy sending me this email.
Yeah.
And, I'm checking the domain on it, and I'm running it through all my tools, which most of the time, I mean, my email security catches everything anyway. But I'm like, something might have got through. I'm looking at everything, and he makes this comment about somebody else that he's dating, which I didn't know. I don't know anything about his personal life.
Mm-hmm.
And he's dating this lady. So I Googled this lady, and I'm like, ain't no way he's dating her. And I'm like, you're talking about being way out of somebody's league. But then I find her on social media and they're together in a picture, and I'm like, well, I'll be dog. Maybe this email's legit. But yeah, I did all kind of running around. I bet you I spent 15, 20 minutes running around, double checking, triple checking and all that. And then finally I was like, well, I guess it's a legit email.
So did you then say, look, you got to work on your email skills?
No, not yet. But it's just, again, it was like, it was an email where they were just asking for a favor, but it was prefaced by a bunch of stuff that didn't make any sense. Like, I don't really need to know all this other stuff. It doesn't, none of that prerequisite stuff has anything to do with what you're really asking me. So
it was like the big, long ones that like we get them. I remember during boot camp, we got one of the ones how they had, we've stolen all your data and we're like, it came to the help me with HIPAA.
Yeah.
We don't have data.
It was strange. The only thing that might have happened, and I don't want to say anything bad about this person, but, and I'm not saying who it is anyway, so it doesn't matter, but it did come through over the weekend and it was in the evening. So there is some likelihood that there might have been some intoxication involved. Again, I have no idea if this person even drinks, but it just, the rambling that was happening in the email just didn't seem normal.
Or it's one of those ones you dictate because when you're just rambling,
Yeah, maybe that was it. They were using text to speech. I don't know. But anyway, that said, it comes down to, was I able to recognize it? Well, I thought it was one, but I did do my due diligence, which is what you want to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then, had it been one, well, what action steps would I take, who to report it to and all that. So that's something that's hard to do with your staff, is to get them to recognize a phishing attack. And you're not going to be able to do this successfully unless you're paying for simulated phishing exercises, or you had that type of service set up. And here's the thing I think a lot of people miss in that service. They have their people phished, then somebody fails or whatever. Oh, you clicked on the link or whatever. Okay, that's great. But you never go back and look at it and say, let's analyze the email and let's figure out where the indicators are that you should have picked up on.
Yeah.
And so
that's a big question. Yeah. What do you do when they click?
Exactly. The teaching moment never happens. You're just like, oh, you failed. Do this remedial training or whatever. And so rarely have I seen people actually go back and say, let's analyze this together to see what you missed. Yeah. I don't see that happening very often.
Well, that's the thing that we're adding more and more to our, we used to say, hey, are you doing this? And everybody be like, yeah. Now, it's like, yeah, that's what we do. We do it all the time. What happens when they click? I'm not sure. Yeah.
A lot of times it's just, we get a report that said they clicked.
Yeah. And then what do you do? Oh, well, we follow the stats to make, okay, but what do you do needs to keep going. And then what happens? And then what happens?
Yeah. I click shame them. That's what I do.
Oh, that's good. So those are our 4 things, but I did find it interesting that they based a lot of the stuff off of their Behave report. The National Cybersecurity Alliance does every year. And they did in one of their webinars about the Cybersecurity Awareness Month, they covered for some stats that I thought were quite interesting.
Mm-hmm.
First was feelings towards cybersecurity.
Feelings. No.
Oh, there we go. And we're out. All over the place today, but that's to be expected if you knew. The first of how they feel. How do you feel about cybersecurity?
Yeah, let's sit you down in the long couch and let's talk about this.
Yeah, let's figure out. I thought it's both a good number and then not so much a good number.
Yeah.
Is like, okay, it should be like 90 something %, but it's 78%, which is better than less than 50%. So 78% of people consider staying secure online a priority.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm like 70. Really? After 20 years?
Yeah.
78% is all you
Yes.
can get.
Yes. That's kind of it. And then here we go. 57% say they are worried about cybercrime.
Yeah. Well, there's a bunch of people who don't realize what it even is if it's only 57%.
Well, and they think that it's not going to happen to them. That we say that all the time. 46% felt frustrated while staying secure online. So that one, I'm not sure what to do with.
Yeah, I would thought that would be higher too.
I know. And then 39% felt information on how to stay secure online is confusing. So I think that key is let's narrow it down to 4 things, and we talk about just those 4 things. You know, and it's kind of like with Hiccup. It's 5 threats and 10 practices.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the same thing.
And again, it's, getting back to the basics, getting back to the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
Because no matter how many times we talked about MFA, multi-factor authentication, I still have people who say, what exactly is that again?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it doesn't help any that terms sometimes change. Like Donna said earlier, it was 2FA, now it's MFA. Well, if you don't know these things, that sounds like a different animal to me.
Yeah. Well, they both have FA.
Hey, FA.
FA. So, in looking at, okay, we need more people to understand about cybercrime and to be concerned about being safe online. We know they're frustrated, and it is confusing. It's one of the reasons that we keep trying new ways to get the message across. So I like that they're looking at those numbers. They're both good and bad. However you want to. Do you want to look glass half full or glass half empty? Whichever way you want to look at it.
Well, the only thing we know for sure is that not enough people consider it a priority. Not enough people are worried about it. And too many people are frustrated and are confused.
Well, and then you have the people who do think it's a priority. They are worried about it, but they think somebody else is handling it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It requires us all.
Well, if you were to ask somebody in cybersecurity their feelings, I bet you would get vastly different percentages.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like anything else. When you're in the trenches, you have a very different outlook. If you ask somebody in healthcare about healthcare related feelings, you'll get different things. But outside of that, it's like, yeah, I think it's important to brush my teeth sometimes. But anyway, so above and beyond feelings, the other thing that matters, maybe even more so, is the behaviors.
So they change.
What does the behaviors look like? Because you can feel all you want to feel, but what are you doing about it?
Well, and this is the thing, is like after we get good training, what are the behaviors you change once you've learned some more? 33% created unique passwords for all accounts. So does that mean the rest of them didn't? How many of them didn't do it? 18% of those people downloaded, didn't say used, downloaded a password manager.
Yeah, I would definitely say that a smaller percentage actually used it.
Yeah. 43% have never heard of multi-factor authentication.
Yeah, that's my point. Like, for those people who are like, oh, you've been harping on this for years, there's still 43% of the people out there who have no idea
what it is. Out of the 57% of participants who had heard of MFA, so they knew about it, 79% of those people applied it at least once to something, I guess. 94% reported they are still using it, though. So once you get used to it, you do it. And then we got 92% of respondents took action of some sort after security training.
So
58% say they're better at recognizing phishing.
good.
Yeah. You're better at recognizing whatever you studied there. I don't know what that means.
Yeah. Still not a high percentage, but okay.
Yeah. 45% start using strong and unique passwords. Wait, what? We need more of that. 40% using MFA and 40% doing regular installing of software updates.
Well, if you add all those up together, that's over 100%. So everybody's doing something.
Well, at least, they're paying attention there. That's a substantial change. We're not looking at, 10% changing. So that's good.
Yep.
So this is why we're doing these things. This is why they're trying to narrow it down and have just a very positive tone to the discussions and encouraging, yay, team. So if you haven't been doing anything for Cybersecurity Awareness Month because you're like us and busy, forgot about it, don't have the stuff, now would be the time, since you're halfway through the month, a little over halfway by the time this comes out, now would be the time to grab some stuff and put it out, or just decide that you're going to do the exact same campaign in November.
Yeah. I mean, do it every month. Shoot.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you're the person in your organization that is responsible for pushing out this type of material, the key thing to remember here is you don't have to try to find the newest, flashiest stuff. Just get back to the very basics of what you know to do and what people should be doing. Because they haven't got that part yet. There ain't no sense of moving on to the next step yet. The tone that they want us to have in this particular campaign is to have a positive tone and approachable tone, which I'm often told I'm not approachable. So this is going to be a challenge for me. It needs to be simple, which I do have I'm pretty decent about simplifying complex stuff. So that's not a big deal. And then lastly, get back to basics. Like we've been saying through the whole episode, get back to basics. So nothing in there said have a smart ass attitude. So I don't know. That's tend to be where I stay.
Yeah.
But the point is you want people to feel like they are learning something. It's not complicated and they understand what it is they should be doing and why they should be doing it.
It is, I don't, some people don't follow sports, but it's often a good analogy of, you look at professional baseball players, the hitters, for example, or the pitchers, the ones, that they have these mechanics that they have, and then all of a sudden they get in a slump, or they're missing the strike zone, or they're having problems. Often, what solves it is they go back and get the coach that taught them the fundamentals. Bring that coach, fly them into wherever they're at, and say, what am I doing? Because they are looking at the fundamentals. And, the number of times that turns out to solve, you were just moving your foot sooner than you normally do. It's that little bitty stuff. So there's nothing wrong with going and focusing on the fundamentals.
Nope. I watched a fight this weekend, an MMA fight, and the whole time, it was two ladies fighting, and one of them, all she had was just a straight jab, and she was eating that other girl up with that straight jab the entire time. Yeah, and all the other flashy moves that the other person was doing, not really doing all that much. It's just that straight jab, consistent. I mean, you can tell she worked that thing for 10,000 hours. She was just on point. And, that's the way it is.
Make it happen.
Yep. All right. That is our show for today, folks. Thanks for listening. Be sure to join us next week because you need to be consistent in what you're doing. Yeah. So remember, for Donna and myself, that HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.